On today's podcast, we talk about the things that are top of mind for me right now as we go into the end of the year. Hey, what's up, Foreclosure Fix family, and welcome to another episode of the Foreclosure Fix podcast, where our goal is to help 1 million homeowners successfully navigate foreclosure. Now, if that mission resonates with you, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, or share our content with someone who you know it can benefit, or better yet, leave us a review. Yes, leave us a 5-star review. It helps the algorithm, and it helps more people get to this life-changing message. In addition to that, you can pick up a copy of our latest book called The Foreclosure Fix, 12 Proven Steps to beat the bank, escape foreclosure, and turn your property into a profitable asset. On today's podcast, we are talking about some things that are top of mind for me right now in this time of year. We're recording this in December 2024. There's a few things that are top of mind for me from things that I've heard or things that I'm dealing with, and I want to share them with you as homeowners who may be facing foreclosure. All right. The first thing that I have been dealing with or going through and hearing about is about the market. What is going on in the general real estate market? We did a market update episode recently. We see where mortgage rates are, and people are asking me, DJ, should I sell my house now? Should I wait? What do I do? Do you think it's going to get better? Do you think it's going to get worse? What is going on in the marketplace? And what I can tell you is that we are in December. And historically, kind of between after the first week of December and into about the second or third week of January, sales will slow down tremendously. And that doesn't mean people don't transact. Deals still get done. People are still buying. People are still selling, but it slows down tremendously. And why? Is you got the holidays. People are busy. It's cold outside in many places across the country. People are just focused on other things. And buying a house, except for the people who really have to move, is not really a high priority. It's something that can go to the back burner, something that will wait to the new year. People always often feel that in the new year, with New Year's resolutions, new goals, they can start off the year with a fresh start. And so if you're looking to sell and you don't have your property currently on the market, or you're thinking about should you take it off the market, or what should you do to kind of refresh, I would say that right now is not a good time to put your property on the market. If you can wait, and it's not a situation where like the foreclosure sale is going to be later this month or the first week in January, I would wait a little bit and put it on maybe the second week in January. Because by that time, people have done everything they're going to do for the year. The new year would have started and people will be back into a normal working cycle. I would say from now to the end of the year, a lot of people disconnect, and they may not disconnect where they are not physically in the office, but mentally they start to check out. If you are a salesperson and like you've already hit your sales goal and like your clients are not going to transact before the end of the year, you're just now doing paperwork. You're just basically staying in contact, getting your gifts ready and things like that. The same thing for other folks who are in industries, maybe government industries, where, you have already spent all the dollars you can spend for the year and you can't even transact until January because, your new fiscal budget doesn't come on. Or you have some people who are making that mad dash to the end of the year where they have to spend some money. So you still have people working, but again, the focus is not necessarily on buying real estate all the time. It may be on buying trucks or cars or things like that, or buying products or materials for them to move on to the next thing. And so if you're thinking about selling your house right now, if you can wait, I would say wait until the second week of January to put it on the market. If you can't wait, you got to do it right away. And what I would say do is what I always tell you folks is that if you have people mailing you, emailing you, texting you, respond. If you have a real estate agent who's out there doing the work for you and helping you get and procure offers, take those offers seriously and see if you can get your house sold before the foreclosure. So that is my thought process around if you should sell right now. So for those of you who are asking me questions about that, that's my thought process. Now, the other thing I want to tell you is I recently heard a podcast from one of my buddies, Brenton Harrison, of the New Money, New Problems podcast. He's a financial planner, has a really, really dope podcast that just talks about all things financial planning, all things money. He also has a student loan podcast. If you remember, he was on this podcast last year. I'll definitely put a link to that episode in the show notes, but he recently did a podcast around when do you talk to your family kind of about the estate situation, and is the holidays a good time or a bad time to do that? And in thinking about that episode that he just launched, it really just made me think about When is a good time to tell your family that you're facing foreclosure, right? When is a good time to tell your family that you're facing foreclosure? And for some of you may say, it's never a good time to tell my family I'm facing foreclosure. That is true. I do believe that you should keep certain things very close to the vest, and you shouldn't tell everybody your dirty laundry. You know, everybody should not know your business. That being said, if you need help from your family, you have to ask them. And so when is a good time to tell your family that you're facing foreclosure if you need their help? That question is like right away, right? Don't wait until Christmas Day after everybody has, spent their money and, the Christmas dinner has been served to say, hey guys, I'm going in foreclosure. I need help. Like, you need to do it right away. And so if you need help from your family to get out of your foreclosure situation, you need to tell them right away. Don't delay. Don't wait. Tell them right away. However, if you're in a situation where you don't need their help, maybe you had a job situation, or maybe you're going to file bankruptcy and you have a plan to move forward, then in my honest opinion, I would say don't tell them. Don't tell people your business if they don't need to know it. You don't need people all up in your Kool-Aid, not knowing the flavor, creating gossip and creating drama. No, you just want to keep it to yourself. Now, if you have close family members, like if you're close with your family, like your siblings or your parents, and you want to let them know, feel free. Definitely use discretion. But at the end of the day, if you need their help, you need to make sure you ask them sooner rather than later, especially in the holiday season, because oftentimes people say, all right, I'm going to spend X amount of money for holiday gifts and Christmas gifts or whatever. And when that money's gone, it's gone, or it's not allocated towards, buying more Christmas gifts. In addition to that, if I know I'm going to spend a couple $1,000s on Christmas gifts and you need my help, with $1,000, well, if I give you that $1,000, I may need to, back off on some of the gifts I buy, or maybe I won't be buying you a Christmas gift this year because I just let you hold $1,000. At the end of the day, if you need help from people, it's better for you to let them know sooner rather than later. The other thing you need to remember, and this is what somebody taught me early in life, is that an emergency on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. So for example, you may need the money tomorrow, but you call somebody today and they're like, well, I can get it to you, but I can't get it to you for a week, right? You can't get frustrated with them. You can't get upset, because that's the emergency you have, not an emergency they have. Again, an emergency on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. Now, if they love you and they want to help you, they will have a sense of urgency and they will try to do the best thing they can do for you. But at the end of the day, sometimes they can't. I could love you so much, but if you ask me for $1 million today, you're not getting it. You know what I mean? You can't get water out of a rock unless you're Jesus. At the end of the day, you need to make sure that you're doing what you need to do. You need to ask early. And if you need help from family to resolve your foreclosure situation, then you need to ask early. Outside of that, I would keep my mouth shut. I would get my things in order, and I would deal with the problem and move on. The other thing I want to talk to you about today that's top of mind for me is I am going through some due diligence on a portfolio for a client, and I'm getting lots of title reports in on different loans. And so a title report, if you have not listened to some of our previous episodes or you're not familiar with it, basically a title report is a report that tells me everything that's going on with the property from a legal perspective, or things that are recorded in the recorder's office for whatever county that property is located in. And so you get a title report anytime you want to know what's going on with the property. Anytime you're selling or buying a property, a title report is typically ordered. And that report is very, very important because it tells you about the liens on the property, it tells you about the mortgages on the property, it tells you about any judgments that may be associated with the property and things like that. And oftentimes, when you get a good title report, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clean. Basically, you have the owner, you have maybe a first mortgage, a second mortgage, and then you have all the supporting documents for that. So it's pretty clean. But in the last couple of weeks, I have been reviewing these files, and these title reports have been dirty. And when I say dirty, obviously, I don't mean physically dirty, but they have just been long. And when I say long, a title report, typically can be anywhere between 30 to 300 pages. It just depends on how much stuff is going on. But The main items on a title report that can cause problems outside of the mortgages are when you have tons of different liens that need to be dealt with. And as you all think about modifications, as you think about payoffs, as you think about doing short sales, as you think about all the things that are associated with the way in which you get out of your foreclosure situation, you have to always think about the title report. And if you want a title report, you can easily order a title report from a company I like to use called Pro Title. They're not a sponsor. They don't pay me, but I do use their service. You can order a title report for anywhere between $85 and like $125, depending on kind of how many owners you want to go back. And so really great service. They do title reports nationwide, and they're pretty good. That being said, if you get a title report and you look on a title report, what's making it dirty for me on these loans I'm reviewing for this client is that a lot of them have tons and tons of liens on them. And these liens sometimes are tax liens, sometimes they are, and when I say tax liens, I mean property tax liens, which means either they haven't paid property taxes or they haven't paid property taxes and somebody has subsequently bought those liens at like a tax sale or something like that. They don't own the property yet, but they could take the property. In addition to that, I'm also seeing liens and judgments for people that are associated with their other businesses and things like that. And the reason why it makes it difficult for a lender to be able to help you in those situations when you have back taxes and you have other liens on the property is the lender does not know if you will be capable to make the payments, right? One of the things that lenders always look for is the ability to repay. They want to make sure that if they put you in a modification and they say, hey, start paying $1,000 a month or $500 a month or whatever number it is, that you have the ability to pay that and eventually get back on track to pay them what they're duly owed. I have seen modifications in the current market being done around 9.9%, so almost 10%. I've seen less, but for the most part, especially when you're looking at junior liens, I've seen that around that 10% mark. And so if we want you to pay us and they're hoping that you'll be able to get back on track, if we see tons of liens and tons of other things on the property, the likelihood of you being able to pay us and all the other liens is slim, unless you come into a windfall of cash or unless you ask your family for help or whatever else may be the case, which likely means you may file bankruptcy or you may have to sell the house. And so when you're dealing with a lender and you're saying, I want a modification, and they go and they check title or they look at title and they do a report and they see all these liens, the likelihood of them giving you a modification is going to be less, I would tell you. And yes, they may offer you terms, but the likelihood of you being able to complete that with all the other stuff is going to be slim to none. Or what they may do is say you need to pay off all those liens before we can go through with this modification. Because again, a lender is worried about themselves. They are not worried about you. They're trying to protect their own financial interests. And if they know that there are tax liens out there that may wipe them out, and when I say wipe them out, that could extinguish their lien position, they don't want to take that risk. They will rather pay those liens off and make you pay them more than them being in a situation where they could potentially get wiped out. And so I want to make sure you all know that if you have tons of other debts or other issues going on, you may need to consider bankruptcy to kind of clean that up, clear that out, because the biggest thing that you want to do is get yourself on a good financial footing. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help you get to that place where you feel good about moving forward, not just keeping your house, but also making sure that your financial future is secure. And your house is a part of that. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure you have the mental space and the mental capacity and the ability to be successful, whether you keep your house or you decide to sell your house. Now, that brings me to one of my favorite parts of the podcast, which is our bow tie round. Our bow tie round is where you, our listeners, get to tie one on with your host, DJ Olojo. The B in bow tie round stands for my best advice for somebody facing foreclosure. The O stands for one thing I'm grateful for. And the W stands for my wildest or most interesting foreclosure related story. And my best advice for you right now, if you are a business owner or you have an LLC or things like that, you may have heard of FinCEN, or you may have heard of the act that came out, and I'm drawing a blank because it was in my notes and now it's not in my notes. But basically it was a reporting act that made all business owners who have LLCs report exactly who the owner of it is. It was the Corporate Transparency Act. There it goes. The Corporate Transparency Act came out, I think last year or so. And this year you were required to report who were the beneficial owners of any entity that you had. Well, I will tell you that recently, just as of yesterday, that was kind of put on on hold a little bit because a federal court in the state of Texas basically said it's not fair. And so that is in limbo right now. And so if you were worried about trying to report before the end of the year, I think that you will have a little bit more grace and a little bit more leeway on that. And so definitely stay tuned. If you're not familiar with FinCEN and all that stuff, definitely kind of Google some articles, talk to your CPA, talk to your attorney. But if you're a business owner, and you were saying, man, I got to report before the end of the year, definitely talk to your legal counsel, your CPA, to get more information to see if you still need to report. Again, this is not legal advice. I'm not an attorney, but this is just what I have been told from those who are in the know as it pertains to what's going on with business. And that is for business owners. But again, I know many of you out there are business owners, so I want to keep you abreast the same way I try to stay abreast of these things. The one thing I'm grateful for, I am grateful for the Foreclosure Fix community. This community has been awesome. You all are amazing, and I just appreciate you for listening, for you tuning in, for you buying our book, and for you just really being focused on getting yourself to a better place. Whether you're facing foreclosure or not, whether you're in the industry as a real estate professional, or you're thinking about getting in industry, this content, this information is all here to help you become the best professional that you can be. The wildest and most interesting foreclosure related story this week comes from a file I am working for a client in Massachusetts, and I may have said that state wrong because my wife says I say it funny, but I'm talking about Mass. I'm talking about the place where Boston is. That place. We are working some files there. Super interesting situation. I am representing and working with the lien holder for the second mortgage, and my client took it to foreclosure. They went all the way to foreclosure sale, and the foreclosure sale was actually the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, right? So the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. The crazy part is that the first mortgage, because my client was the second mortgage, went to sale the Monday after Thanksgiving. So in a twist of events, on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, my client went to foreclosure sale and they took back the property. So they went to the courthouse steps, they took back the property. And then they tried to get a payoff from the first mortgage, but they couldn't get a payoff because of the fact that it's Thanksgiving. People are closed and it takes time to get payoffs. As I always tell you, payoffs just don't automatically happen. They typically take 5 to 7 days because they got to get all the legal fees and stuff like that. And so my client did not have enough time to get a payoff from the attorney who was doing the first mortgage foreclosure. And the first mortgage foreclosure happened on the subsequent Monday. And guess what? It's sold to a third party. And in the state of Massachusetts, they have 30 days to be able to kind of pay that. So now my client, who was in a lien position, is now wiped out. They are wiped out. However, the reason why this is an interesting story is because the outcome is yet to be determined. But because of the fact that it's sold to third party, we don't know if there's going to be overage funds for the lender to be able to try to recoup all the money that they spent, or if they would just be completely wiped out. And so that is a TBD situation. And we won't know for the next 30, 45, 60, maybe even 90 days. But as I talk about the lenders in this situation, the reason why this story is interesting to me is that I want you to know that the lenders lose too, right? They don't always win. And I know sometimes you think when people face foreclosure, like, oh, everybody's winning. No, in this scenario, my client is losing as it stands right now. And they have lost before. So it's not a situation where the lender always wins, especially when the lender's in second or third position, or the lender has a lien that is unsecured. They oftentimes never ever get paid out. And so I don't want you to always feel like the lender is the big bad, wolf in this scenario. The lender just wants to be able to make their clients, the people who have invested in their fund, the people who have invested in their bank, they want to make them whole, right? Imagine if you invested $1,000 or $100,000 into a bank and they are out there lending that money out. And then they say, hey, sorry, I can't give you back your $100,000. I only can give you back 50 because people have not paid us back on the loans we had, right? How would that feel if you were the person putting that money in the bank? Again, I always want to tell you that banking is a big industry. Finance is a huge industry. But at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do to get out the situation you're in. And sometimes that means that the bank has to do what's best for their clients, although it may seem like it's bad for you as the homeowner. That brings us to the end of our podcast. If the goal to help 1 million homeowners resonates with you, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share our content with someone who you know can benefit, or better yet, leave us a review. And check out a copy of our latest book, The Foreclosure Fix, 12 Proven Steps to Beat the Bank, Escape Foreclosure, and Turn Your Property into a Profitable Asset. As always, I'm DJ Olojo. Thank you for listening. I love you, and God bless you. The views and opinions on this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice. If you have a specific legal question, we highly recommend you contact a qualified legal professional.